So every day, like, we throw an average of 7 pounds of trash out, like, per day, just as Americans, which, like, is insane. You also, if you think about, like, the day-to-day items that you throw away, like, they don't weigh that much. So, like, to get that to weigh up to 7 pounds, like, you just are consuming so much in a day and not necessarily even thinking about it. So everyone really knows, like, the first three R's of sustainability, which is, like, reduce, reuse, recycle, but really there's much more than that. So it starts off with rethinking and refusing. So with rethinking, like, we essentially just need to sit and understand, like, the amount of systems that are in play to get us to where we're just consuming 7 pounds of, or like producing 7 pounds of waste per day without, like, a second thought. And once we start to understand that there are, like, all these different systems at play, like, we can start to refuse them and then, like, get into how to, like, properly address all of the waste systems at play. Cause yeah, pretty much everything with America is, like, we're just focused on the production of an endless more. So once we recognize that, we can, like, rethink all of this.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of how I want to start. Like, I know we're going to talk about, like, recycling, but, like, really refusal is, like, where, like, some of my focus is in. Cause, like, I think that's really where, like, we can get to that. And then once we get to, like, refusal, we can start reducing the amount that, like, we're consuming and producing. Once we get to that, like, that's when repurpose and reuse comes into play. Which as artists, I think is, like, a really cool opportunity where we can take things that are usually going to be considered waste, and finding more, like, unique ways to transform them into things. Once we get all that, then we can start thinking about, like, recycling. So it's like already we have, 5 other steps before we get there. Let's see. And so it's like recycling seems so easy. Sometimes it is, but it's like there are so many steps that, like, also need to be taken just to make it easier on everyone else. A lot of people think that you can just, like, throw something away, like, in the recycling bin, and, like, boom, that's the end of it. But it's like, once you do that, like, someone else still has to deal with it after that. So we need to make sure that, like, we're still taking care of the items properly so they can be properly recycled. Because otherwise, if you're just, like, throwing in, like, cans that are still, like, half full of stuff, everything just gets all sticky and gross, and, like, a lot of times, like, places can't then use that, and it all just gets trashed. So yeah.
I'm so excited. I know nothing about this, so I'm so excited.
I think it is. I love that it's important to, like, the think and refuse, because, like, honestly, if you think about your own carbon footprint, like, you can reduce it by just little things, like think about all the how you take a shower, like, all that stuff, like wasting water, all that stuff.
Yeah. And, like, with that, like, it does get really tricky too, because it's like, while there's so much that we can do as individuals, it's still, like, anything that we do on our scale gets to, like, it's not really going to make any big of an impact. And I think that's also where refusal really comes in, because, like, once we can understand, like, all of these systems are built up against it, and, like, once we start refusing it, like, we can really start to, like, show, like, where the systems are in play, that, like, oh no, we're not going to accept things to be how they are. Like, we want change, kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, let's see. So even with it, so, like, on the waistline, which is, like, where Omaha has, like, our trash and recycling through, like, only 14% of our waste, like, last year got recycled. 83% of it, like, still went to the landfill, and, like, that's still, like, so much. And, like, so little is actually being recycled. And, like, there's, again, like, so much that goes into it, because, like, we're relying on all of these systems to just, like, properly recycle our stuff. It's like when we just throw it in the bin, someone else takes it away, and, like, that's out of sight, out of mind. And there's also still, like, so many infrastructures that, like, don't do recycling around here. So it's like when you're out and about, like, just down the street, you can hear, like, do we only have trash cans or do we have recycling, and all of that. Let's see. So, like, some of the common things are, like, with Golden Rules of Recycling, yeah. This is the Pillside Solution. Shout out, they have lots of really great resources. So things, yeah, like I was saying, like, we need to be dry and empty. We can't just be throwing in, like, pop cans with drinks still in it. Like, ideally, you should really, like, rinse it out. But, like, again, like, it's really hard. And sometimes you don't have the time to take 2 seconds. But, like, if we can really just, like, try and make the time, it's also, like, a really great point of reflection to sit and, like, take the whatever trash item, whatever object you have, and, like, take the time to, like, care for it. It really, like, gives you, like, the second to, like, think about the waste that you are producing, and maybe think about how you can try to, like, not produce as much waste.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah, of course.
If you don't, like, properly clean a can out, do they chuck it? Like, do they not recycle it at the plant or whatever?
To be honest, like I don't know like how like what their like regulations are with how like much it has to be like rinsed out and whatnot.
Or if you don't even rinse it out at all, do they just discard it?
I feel like to an extent, because obviously like I don't think anyone really rinses it. Like that's a really like uncommon practice. So I feel like they would have to still use it some, but it's like even then like more work that they have to do, and like it's also I don't know like having at least as little in there as possible. You don't want to like have anything because like if it's super sticky, that's when it's really gonna start messing up the things for them. If there's like still food chunks in there, and then especially like once it gets like bagged up, like there's still such a process that it goes through before it gets broken down. So like as much as we can do before that, like we'll just help the whole process go along. And it's really easy for it to like think that it's not our problem once we throw it in the bin, or like once we're done consuming what we want of it, like we're done. There's like more to it than that. Number 2, put it out, throw it out. Like I was showing earlier, we have this really great like recycling guide. Like it's literally just called the Omaha Recycling Guide from Keep Omaha Beautiful. You can just go on there, type in like anything you want. So like
Let's scroll down some. I want to see
yeah,
what
so this
they
has like
say.
the common items. So like plastic bags, you can't just throw in your recycling bin. Most grocery stores have things that you can like recycle those through. There's also like creative methods to recycle them. Like you can break the bags down and turn it into yarn and crochet with it, or do macrame, like those sorts of things.
I found yarn, a lot of yarn.
Yeah.
Like a ball this big for one of the. It's like a yoga ball size, and she made, ironically, trash bag holders out of these trash bags. I'm like, that's adorable. Yes.
Yeah, there's so much you can really do with it. Like people have made mats, you can make rugs, really anything. License plates, yeah, like aren't gonna be accepted. Plastic pots, like some restrictions apply. So like that's a good one for right now. For planting.
Yeah, I was wondering that yesterday.
So like if they're marked number 1, 2, 3, or 5, they can be dropped off in there. But again, like rinse thoroughly to remove all the dirt and contents. Remove plastic tabs or pant markers. Keep them loose and unstacked. Do not bag.
So the tabs are not little. Let's
Yeah.
see what the plant is. Okay.
Which is interesting. Which that like actually it's not because anything cardboard that has like a shiny thing to it. So like coffee cups can't be recycled because it has a plastic lining. And the outside is paper. So like because it's the multi-material, it can't be broken down easily. So the lids can be recycled, but the cups themselves can't be.
Unless they say it, because I feel like some say "recycle me" or something.
Possibly.
Okay.
Which again, like it really just does depend. But yeah, if you can. A really easy way to tell is like trying to rip it. If you can't rip it easily, or like if you try and rip it, like you'll be able to see if there's like a plastic film lining in there, and if it is, then it can't be recycled. You can also find ones that are like compostable, but if it's compostable, it has to be through like a commercial composting facility like Hillside Solutions. You can't just throw it in your composting bin because it still takes too long to like decompose or like break down.
You could still throw that in the trash though, right? And that would like eventually.
Not really, because like once you throw it in the trash and it gets to the landfill, the way that landfills are set up, we have what we call like sanitary landfills. So it's you like put all the trash down, it gets bulldozed, and you put the dirt over it, and like the dirt is trapping everything in there, so it doesn't break down as fast. So like even if you had just like a piece of lettuce in there, it could take like up to 7 years.
For lettuce.
For like a piece of lettuce or like a head of lettuce to like decompose because it's getting compacted in there with the dirt. And like everything else, so everything else is it's just like all getting trapped and like not able to go through the actual process that it needs to, and it's being like compacted down so much.
Crazy.
Which is why like composting is another like important thing. Like anything like biodegradable like that you're throwing into like that's ending up in a landfill isn't able to break down properly as if it would in a composting bin. Just because like there's still so much else going on. Yeah, that was like a lot of information at once, but
No, that's good.
this is a really great guide.
And it's the Omaha, what's the name?
Omaha Recycling Guide. It's through
Okay.
Keep Omaha Beautiful.
Keep Omaha Beautiful.
They have a lot of like other really great resources as well. And yeah, you literally
I
just
didn't know
it's
this
just
was
type
here.
in. Yeah,
Been
I would
linking
like
that on our website.
That's super nice.
it's very handy.
Yeah.
With that, so like there's like the orange bags that we have now as well with recycling. I thought it was we had more of like what Omaha accepts. Because it is like the only there's like the number of plastics that I had up here is like number 1, 5, like 3, and yeah, 1, 2, 3, and 5 are the only ones that like we can throw in the recycling bins here in Omaha. It's usually going to be like sturdier plastics, like the harder plastics. Anything that's a soft plastic is going to be what you're throwing in like the orange energy bags, which has like this really long list of things you can do in there. I know originally I thought that you could throw like the foil chip bags in there, but that's something that actually like needs to be landfilled. They can't be recycled because again, it's like the multi-material, and the foil can't be broken down. But if it's like a see-through plastic, that's usually where it's going to be. So like see-through candy wrappers and chip bags can be thrown in these orange energy bags.
So pork rinds are cool.
You say what? Pork rinds?
Pork rind. Their plastics are clear. They're
Oh,
all clear.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Maybe I'm like totally missing this, but what are the orange bags? What do you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, like that's it's junk. So it's like a newer like a recycling program. Unfortunately, like you have to buy these energy bags from the grocery store, but it's just for a lot of like the softer plastics that were usually getting thrown in the landfill, like because they couldn't be recycled. Hefty came up with this other like resource for them, which like I have the statistics up here. So it's like they use them as mostly like building materials or like fuel. But yeah, it's just gonna be like softer plastics. But you just put it in these orange bags. So most recyclables you will not bag. You just throw them in your bin here in Omaha, right? But if you have these orange bags, you can throw those in your recycling bin, tied up with like your yogurt tub, your pudding cup, see-through granola bar wrappers. Styrofoam can be thrown in these bags now too, which is really great. Again, like you want to make sure you're not having like food in there. You want to make sure it's cleaned out. Even just taking like a paper towel to it, which paper towels are one. They can't be recycled, but they can be thrown in your compost. So with like napkins, which is just like a weird like loophole where you think you can put them in your recycle, but something about them can't be recycled, but they break down like to be compost really easily.
I will note too, it's hard to find these bags. I find them at Baker's. Baker's has them, but hardware stores don't.
Oh really?
I've got it with the Hy-Vee on Center.
Okay, so Hy-Vee must have them too.
Something I thought about before, it'd be really cool if like through BFF or through a grant or something, we were able to like get these and help to like distribute them, because like it, unfortunately it is like where it becomes a barrier where not everyone can afford to buy these bags, and it's just a bunch of things are still getting thrown away because it's not accessible.
How much are those, the bags?
I don't know. I think it used to be like almost $20 for a box. I don't know if it's
They're
still
cheaper
up there.
now. They're cheaper. It's similar to like regular trash bags now.
Okay.
Like a box of regular trash bags. But they made them bigger.
They are,
like
and they're
tiny.
huge. And like for most things that you're gonna throw in there, they're gonna be really small, and like it can help to even with like normal recycling, compacting things as much as you can. So like cardboard boxes, break them down. Cans, crush them if you can. Like anything plastic wise, crush it up as much as you can. And it's really gonna save your room. Which I mean, sometimes is helpful and sometimes isn't really that important. It's getting picked up every other week, but like if you're putting it in the bag, that can like save your room and like make it so.
I literally had no idea about this orange bag. Yeah.
It's still like a relatively new program. Like within the last 2 years. If you want to go onto like Hefty's Renew site, they have like a bunch of like they have the whole fact sheet you can down. They have like a short one as well. I haven't gone through all of it, but for the most part, like here's like the thing. So where it's green is where like it improved instead of sending it to the landfill, and then the gray is where it didn't. So for air pollution, using the concrete aggregate didn't really do much compared to like landfilling it, but like using it as fuel or construction blocks, roofing covered board or drainage material helped in all of those areas.
That's so cool. I thought they just burnt it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
They repurposed it.
But yeah, there's like some building materials that they can use still, which like the concrete aggregate, I want to like learn more about, like using it as concrete because that sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
And like construction blocks, that makes sense. They use it for roofing or like drainage material, like using it to build different drainage systems. Probably like in landfills again too.
Also, like shout out to Hefty for even doing this.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I feel like all corporations should, but they don't. So that's really cool.
It's nice that they took the initiative. For that. But yeah, I don't know. I guess back to the R's. Like once we like recycle, then we go back to rot. That's really what there's composting, which I'm going to touch. Like we do have the compost bin out back. That like the code is in the cabinet. It's what like 1137.
Something.
I don't know the code offhand. But yeah, even for things like coffee grounds, if you have like where you're trying to clean out whatever item you're trying to recycle, like just go out back, open up the compost bin, throw it in there, and you can recycle it.
I know we want to make make some. Oh, sorry. Well, we'll
No,
talk
that's all I
later.
got.
But I know about improvements we want to make here.
Yeah, like I said,
Compost
just a lot of
in
that.
the
Like,
compost. collector.
What are things? So I'm a person that likes to have like a setup to do something like this. I wouldn't know how to do that, but I like color coordinating. So I would think, how many bins would I need to recycle my house trash? Like I would need a compost one, I would assume. I would need a trash one, potentially a plastic hefty one, so an orange one.
Mhm.
What am I missing?
Glass.
Glass, okay.
Glass is separate.
Aluminum, or can those two go together, or no?
Glass and aluminum, no. Glass you have to, like glass you cannot throw in your recycling bins here in Omaha. They have to be taken directly to like the glass recycling, which I'm gonna pull up where they're at. But like
Do
they're
they
very
still
specific
like give money for
locations.
that if you have? I don't have a ton of glass bottles,
So
but I mean
there's-
like,
You can take them here. You can,
Mhm.
because we have glass recycling here. But you can
Okay.
also take them. There's one at 72nd behind West Lane Bowling in the West
Okay.
Lane's parking lot.
yeah,
There's a drop off. Yeah, or go to Wasteland. There's drop off locations.
okay.
So
Some don't take glass. I feel like though.
glass only in
Oh,
some
yeah, glass.
locations.
Some are glass
There's only
only.
gonna be two, and it's like the really big. Like you just throw
Yeah.
your glass in there. Full service drop off locations. There's a handful, but not really a handful. There's
A lot of them
couple.
are out west.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But-
Which again like becomes an accessibility issue.
Mm-hmm.
Which like really makes it difficult when you're here like in North Omaha and it's like expecting people to be able to afford like the orange bag to be able to drive out to like recycle their glass.
Right.
That's kind of where it comes into like the system is like set up against us already, so it's like trying to take the extra steps is so hard, but like once we try and get in the mindset.
That kind of surprises me that they're more out west. I
Mhm.
don't know why. I guess I just feel like richer people don't care as much, but maybe it's just a
feel
perception.
like-
Well, and here's the other thing. I live in an apartment complex. We are not required to do that, and they don't have a setup for it.
Yeah.
But if they had like a setup for it and be like, hey, here's a 6 thing of trash cans. These are different bags. When you fill them up, this is all that goes in here. Throw them in these bins accordingly by color. And then the whole city could do that if they had like color coordinated recycling bags.
Totally.
Yeah.
But
Most
that would
big
have to
cities
be
do that.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
like why aren't we doing that here? Because I would set something up in my house to do that.
Does your apartment even have recycling? And that's I
So
think
you'll have
that's
to
part
take
of
it.
like
Yeah.
why for the statistic we're like only whatchamacallit, like some of our stuff, like what are they like the 14% is getting actually in there. I think there's just so much because like the mall also doesn't recycle. Like there's all of these things where it's like all of this is just like we're not
Oh,
even
they
putting-
put the green
putting
recycle
effort
thing in there and expect people to know what the heck they're to recycle, and they don't, so it makes it
Yeah.
worse. So
Yeah.
just throw everything in there.
Yeah, it's a whole thing and like trying to sort and like yeah, it's hard to be like as an individual trying
But
to like
doable. I don't think it's gonna be hard. What isn't? Welcome to life.
yeah,
But
exactly.
I think this is 100% doable, like easy, if people just like care to do
I was
that.
gonna say it does come down to like just wanting to take like the 2
But
minutes
climate
to
change
like
is a
reflect.
big, still a big thing right now.
And it's hard because it's like still where it's like I can do everything I can to become zero waste, and it's like that's not gonna affect like how fast we're reaching some of like our deadlines and where it's coming to like the climate crisis. Plus again where it's like refusal comes in, where it's like if we can get a bunch of people to stop buying like Coca-Cola per se, where it's like like how much could we change?
Right.
Because yeah, it's like they're also gonna set up all of these like things where like exactly where like Coca-Cola says by the year 2030 they want to like have 100% of their stuff be recycled or made out of recycled materials, but like they're relying on so many outside factors
Yeah.
to make that happen, and especially like with a long-term goal like that, it's kind of just gonna be we're gonna say this and like it's
But
just to
they
make
can point the
you
finger and say, because you didn't do this, we couldn't meet our goals, so it's not our fault.
yeah, not even
That's how
that.
business works.
Yeah, it's just like making it so you don't feel guilty consuming anymore, and it's hard because like I don't want to tell people to feel guilty consuming things because it's especially when it's like so outside of our power. At times where it's like, wow, I just need food, like I can't eat something without getting something that's going to produce waste. It's because there's all of these systems set up, but it's like when they're telling us things like that, it just makes it so much more difficult because like they're not going to do anything about like trying to actively make it so they're receiving all of their bottles back to turn back into recycled bottles. You know, where it's like they could be lobbying to try and make it so there's recycling at the mall. Because how many, you know, Coke bottles are thrown away at the mall every single day with all of the vending machines and stuff that they have. You know, like hundreds, but like they don't care. Like no one just actually cares. They only care about the profit and like the production of the endless more. And that's what everything is in our society.
The endless more. That's so like
No.
doom filled. Like
I mean, that's a good slogan though.
yeah, it is.
Don't feed into businesses endless more of profit. Like,
Yeah.
it could be worded better than that, but like work with it.
So is the like the 14% from last year? Is that the only the things that they could recycle, or is that like the amount of recycling they received?
It was
Does that make
actually
sense?
done.
Yeah, like
I'm guessing it's the amount that was actually like recycled.
after they like sorted through everything and
Yeah.
But what is their sorting like? Like, are like landfill areas actually doing their part to sort as much as they possibly can, or it's just like, what is their quota? Be like, this is how much we have to go to landfill. Make sure you have like all these things that are easily spotted in here out, and then we'll throw the rest in the landfill. But what is that standard? And is there even a standard for it?
And yeah, and that's it. And to be honest, I don't know. I know that the Omaha recycling facility here, what is it? Something Star. Like they do tours of like the recycling facility, which if anyone wants to do, I want to do as a green team thing sometime.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because yeah, even just seeing the back end. And again, it's even like when we go on a tour, how much are they like sprucing things up just to like what we're seeing on the front end.
Right.
Because again, it can come into a whole other issue where it's like these people are still trying to theoretically make profit off of this, and like how do you do that without, you know, like doing like taking steps to do certain things, or like skipping things, or like making sure that you have enough people that are like sorting through the trash properly, and like who actually even wants to do those jobs, and like how are you able to do these jobs in a safe way, and like make sure you're being paid correctly. Like it's
And adequately.
Tied into so many things. Like this
Yeah.
web. It's like, oh god.
yeah, it becomes really overwhelming, but I don't know.
You'd have to make a complete business model and show that it would bring profit within at least 10 years worth of having that, but then you can't account for like, oh, I don't know, a global pandemic. So stuff like that happens. So that's why it's too much of a risk for people to invest into that. But it's like right now, climate change is such a big hot topic right now that this could get pushed real quick for grants and stuff like that, because it is an issue. And starting here, these small things that people can do, easy, very simple, and can do and can help cut down. It's doable. I think it's doable.
Yeah, it is really doable, and it's just we all just have to like get in our mindset. Especially just the refusal mindset is definitely like something that I've been trying to focus on. Like that's kind of like what I really started leaning into with my thesis, was just like the active refusal. Because like once you start to see like all of the systems like into play, I mean, I don't know, like you can't unsee it really. And like how it just ties into everything.
Going to a butcher shop.
But I don't know, it's also just like, why are we trying to even just make profit on some of these systems as well? And like, why do we need to profit off of like trying to do things properly and trying to take care of things properly and take care of the environment and ourselves and like our community? Because like we shouldn't, it should be our community and the people and the planet like first, like over profit. But it's not, unfortunately. Like everything that our entire society is built upon is profit based. But it's also where it's like as a community coming together to do like these acts of refusal and educate people, you know, is like really I think where a lot of it lies. And like coming together also just to like make art out of the trash that we produce, or like look at it and understanding it like as a community, especially like here in North Omaha, where it's like we're being affected by trash differently than like at West Omaha, just because of all of these systems that are at play. You know, it's a lot.
Like it's just like starting small, you know, like do what we can and try to influence others.
Grassroots.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which is definitely what I feel like I'm trying to do with being the head of Green Team now. So thanks
I love
y'all.
it.
Thanks for my trash spiel.
Yay!